The atmosphere in the studio was tense as two rising stars of the Democratic Party prepared to face off live on national television. Hakeem Jeffries, well known for his sharp political acumen and commanding presence, was confident as he entered the debate. Jasmine Crockett, the outspoken and fearless Congresswoman, was ready to challenge the establishment with her bold and uncompromising stance. From the moment the cameras started rolling, Jeffries launched a pointed critique of recent policy decisions made by progressive lawmakers, indirectly targeting Crockett's district. His tone was measured but unmistakably assertive, aiming to put her on the defensive. However, Jasmine's eyes burned with determination. She listened carefully, then waited for the perfect moment to strike back, not with anger, but with a powerful argument that would soon leave the entire panel and viewers stunned. As Hakeem Jeffries finished his critique, the studio was silent for a moment, waiting for Jasmine Crockett's response. Then, with calm confidence, she leaned forward and addressed him directly. "Congressman Jeffries," she began, her voice steady and clear, "while I respect your experience, your criticism misses a crucial point. The policies you defend have repeatedly failed the very people you claim to represent. Communities like mine, those burdened by systemic inequality, are demanding real change, not empty promises or political grandstanding." Her words cut through the room like a knife. The audience shifted in their seats, sensing the weight behind her statement. Jasmine continued, pointing to specific examples of legislation that had been watered down or delayed due to internal party politics. "You speak of progress, but what we've seen is stagnation masked as compromise. Meanwhile, families in my district are struggling with healthcare access, affordable housing, and job security. If leadership continues down this path, it will be history, not progress, that we remember." Jeffries' usual composure flickered for a moment. He opened his mouth to respond but was met with Jasmine's unwavering gaze, which seemed to challenge anyone to dismiss her. The moderator, sensing the charged atmosphere, quickly moved the discussion forward, but the impact of Crockett's words lingered long after. The tension in the studio was palpable as the conversation moved beyond surface-level political debate into a raw confrontation of ideals and accountability. Jasmine Crockett didn't just challenge Hakeem Jeffries, she exposed a deeper fault line within their party, the struggle between maintaining the status quo and pushing for transformative change. Taking advantage of the moment, Jasmine pressed on, her voice gaining strength with each word. "Hakeem, it's easy to criticize from a place of privilege. But the reality on the ground is harsh. Our people are tired of being sidelined in favor of political convenience. I refuse to let our voices be drowned out by calls for unity that really mean silence." She paused, allowing her message to settle over the audience. Cameras captured every nuance, the steely resolve in her eyes, the passion in her tone. This was more than a political debate, it was a call to action. Jeffries, for all his experience, found himself momentarily on the defensive. He shifted in his seat, and when he spoke, his voice was more measured, less certain. "Jasmine, I agree that there are issues we must address urgently. But progress requires collaboration and compromise, not confrontation." Jasmine responded with a sharp retort that electrified the room. "Collaboration? Compromise? Tell that to the families who have been waiting decades for justice and equality. The time for polite politics is over. If compromise means ignoring suffering, then it's not progress, it's betrayal." The live audience erupted into applause, some standing in ovation. Even the moderator struggled to regain control, sensing the historic moment unfolding live on air. This wasn't just a political clash, it was a defining moment for the party's future. The studio remained charged with energy as Jasmine Crockett's bold words echoed throughout the broadcast. Viewers at home were glued to their screens, witnessing a moment rarely seen in political discourse, a fearless challenge to party leadership that dared to break through the polished veneer of political theater. Hakeem Jeffries, regaining some of his composure, attempted to steer the conversation back to policy specifics. "Jasmine, I appreciate your passion, but leadership also means balancing diverse interests and finding sustainable solutions. It's not about grandstanding on live television. But Crockett was unrelenting. She leaned in, her voice resolute and unwavering. Leadership means standing up for those who have been ignored, even when it's uncomfortable. Sustainable solutions don't come from maintaining the status quo or placating powerful interests. Her rebuttal struck a nerve beyond the immediate debate. Political analysts quickly noted that Crockett was articulating a growing frustration among younger, more progressive voters who demanded accountability and tangible results rather than rhetoric. Jasmine pressed on with a personal anecdote that connected policy to real-life impact. In my district, I spoke to a mother who works 2 jobs yet still can't afford quality childcare. A young man recently released from prison told me how the system failed to support his re-entry. These aren't just stories, they're cries for justice, and they demand more than polite conversation. Jeffries nodded slightly but couldn't fully counter the emotional weight of her testimony. The cameras caught a fleeting look of respect mixed with unease on his face. As the debate segment closed, the moderator summarized, "Clearly, this is a conversation that will continue far beyond this broadcast." Jasmine Crockett's challenge to Congressman Jeffries marks a pivotal moment in the party's ongoing debate over its direction and priorities. Social media erupted instantly. Clips of Crockett's comeback went viral within minutes, sparking widespread discussion about the future of Democratic leadership and the role of bold, uncompromising voices in politics. In the hours following the live broadcast, the political world was abuzz. News outlets scrambled to analyze the exchange between Jasmine Crockett and Hakeem Jeffries, with many commentators declaring it a defining moment in contemporary American politics. Supporters of Crockett praised her courage and clarity, describing her as the voice of a new generation demanding change. Progressive activists shared clips of her speech across social media platforms, hailing her as a fearless leader unafraid to call out complacency. On the other side, some party insiders and moderate Democrats cautioned against what they saw as an overly confrontational approach. They argued that Crockett's uncompromising stance risked fracturing the party and undermining the delicate balance required to pass legislation. Despite the mixed reactions, one fact was undeniable: Jasmine Crockett had shaken the political establishment. In Washington, conversations that once whispered about dissatisfaction grew louder. Younger lawmakers and grassroots organizers began rallying behind Crockett's message, seeing in her a champion for bold policies that address systemic inequalities head-on. Meanwhile, Jeffries and his allies faced increased pressure to respond not just to Crockett, but to a shifting electorate that demanded action, not just promises. Behind closed doors, discussions intensified about how to bridge the growing divide within the party, whether to embrace the new wave of assertive progressivism or to reinforce a more traditional, consensus-driven approach. For Jasmine, the live confrontation was more than a political moment, it was a statement of intent. She vowed to keep pushing for policies that truly reflected the needs of her constituents, no matter the opposition. Her team began mobilizing for upcoming legislative battles with renewed energy, confident that this moment had cemented her position as a rising force in American politics. As the sun set on that historic day, one thing was clear: Jasmine Crockett's crushing comeback had not only shocked Hakeem Jeffries, it had ignited a spark that could reshape the future of the Democratic Party. The days following the televised showdown saw Jasmine Crockett rise to national prominence. Her powerful comeback became the focal point of political discourse across newsrooms, talk shows, and social media channels. Analysts debated the implications. Was this the start of a shift in party dynamics? Could Crockett's brand of unapologetic progressivism become the new norm in Washington? Jasmine herself remained grounded, aware that a single moment, no matter how electrifying, was only the beginning of a long and challenging journey. She continued meeting with community leaders, activists, and constituents, listening carefully to their concerns and shaping her legislative agenda around their urgent needs. Her message resonated deeply, especially with younger voters and marginalized communities who had long felt sidelined by the political system. Fundraising efforts surged, and her team expanded rapidly, preparing for the upcoming election cycle and positioning her as a formidable contender for greater leadership roles. Within the Democratic caucus, the ripple effects of the debate were unmistakable. Several lawmakers began publicly endorsing Crockett's call for bold reforms, while others cautioned patience and incremental change. This internal debate sparked town halls, strategy sessions, and heated caucus meetings, highlighting the party's ongoing struggle to reconcile differing visions for its future. Hakeem Jeffries, meanwhile, adjusted his approach. While maintaining his reputation as a skilled negotiator and seasoned leader, he adopted a more empathetic tone in public statements, acknowledging the urgency behind Crockett's arguments. Behind the scenes, efforts were made to bridge the divide, emphasizing unity without compromising progress. Jasmine's impact extended beyond policy and party politics. Her story inspired countless young activists and aspiring politicians, demonstrating the power of courage and conviction in the face of entrenched systems. She became a sought-after speaker at universities, advocacy groups, and political forums, spreading her vision of justice and equity nationwide. As months turned into a year, the Democratic Party found itself at a crossroads. The clash between traditional pragmatism and rising progressive fervor was no longer a whisper but a defining feature of its identity. Jasmine Crockett's televised comeback was widely regarded as a catalyst, a symbol of change that could no longer be ignored or silenced. In the end, what started as a heated exchange on live television evolved into a movement. A movement demanding accountability, transparency, and real progress for the people. And at its forefront stood Jasmine Crockett, unshaken, unwavering, and ready to lead. As the momentum from that fateful televised debate surged forward, Jasmine Crockett found herself navigating an increasingly complex political landscape. The spotlight brought both opportunities and challenges. Media outlets clamored for interviews, political commentators dissected every word she said, and grassroots activists rallied behind her bold vision. But with heightened visibility came intensified scrutiny. Opponents from within her own party, wary of her rising influence and uncompromising stance, began to push back. Quiet lobbying efforts intensified, and whispers of political maneuvering echoed through the halls of Congress. Some questioned whether her confrontational approach would alienate potential allies or stall progress on legislation. Yet Jasmine remained undeterred. Drawing strength from her community and the countless stories she carried with her, she doubled down on her commitment to transformative change. She launched a series of town halls across her district, where she listened intently to constituents' struggles and aspirations. These gatherings further solidified her reputation as a representative who was deeply connected and genuinely invested in her people's well-being. Simultaneously, Crockett worked tirelessly behind the scenes to build coalitions with like-minded lawmakers, activists, and advocacy groups. She understood that lasting change required both passionate advocacy and strategic alliances. Through careful negotiation and relentless advocacy, she began to shape legislation addressing critical issues such as affordable housing, criminal justice reform, and healthcare access. The media narrative shifted as well. From initially framing her as a rebellious outsider, many commentators started acknowledging her pragmatic approach and growing effectiveness as a legislator. Her ability to balance fiery rhetoric with concrete policy proposals earned her respect across the aisle, even if ideological divides remained. Nationally, Jasmine's story inspired a new wave of political engagement, particularly among young voters who saw in her a reflection of their own frustrations and hopes. Volunteer efforts surged, campaign donations increased, and grassroots organizations credited her influence for energizing their causes. Despite the challenges and growing pains, Jasmine Crockett's trajectory was unmistakable. She was no longer just a congresswoman making headlines with a fiery comeback, she was becoming a pivotal figure in shaping the future of her party and, potentially, the nation. As debates over policy and party identity intensified in Washington, Jasmine stood ready, not only to speak but to act. Her journey was a testament to the power of conviction, courage, and the unyielding belief that change is possible, even when the odds seem stacked against you. As the political landscape continued to evolve, Jasmine Crockett's influence began to extend far beyond the halls of Congress. Her message of bold reform and accountability resonated with a growing coalition of activists, community leaders, and everyday citizens who were eager to see real change take hold. In Washington, Jasmine spearheaded several key legislative initiatives aimed at dismantling systemic barriers. She championed bills focused on expanding affordable housing, increasing funding for public education, and reforming the criminal justice system to prioritize rehabilitation over punishment. These efforts were met with both enthusiasm and resistance, reflecting the deep divides within the political arena. Despite facing significant opposition from some entrenched interests, Jasmine's ability to mobilize grassroots support proved invaluable. Large-scale rallies and public demonstrations echoed her calls for justice, amplifying pressure on lawmakers to take meaningful action. Social media campaigns bearing her name trended nationwide, turning her into a symbol of progressive hope and determination. Jasmine also forged strategic partnerships with influential organizations and fellow progressive lawmakers, creating a formidable bloc within the Democratic Party. Together, they pushed to shift the party's platform toward more aggressive reforms, challenging the more moderate establishment figures to reconsider their positions. In the meantime, Hakeem Jeffries, while maintaining his leadership role, began to publicly acknowledge the necessity of adapting to this changing political climate. His occasional endorsements of progressive policies signaled a subtle, if cautious, shift in his approach, a recognition that the party's future depended on embracing new voices like Jasmine's. The media narrative evolved as well. Profiles on Jasmine highlighted not just her fiery debate moments but also her growing legislative accomplishments and grassroots connections. Opinion pieces debated the merits of her uncompromising style versus the traditional, measured political playbook. As election season approached, Jasmine Crockett emerged as a key figure to watch. Her ability to inspire, organize, and lead energized supporters and challenged opponents alike. The debate that once shocked the nation was now seen as the spark for a larger movement, one that promised to redefine the Democratic Party and American politics for years to come. The political reverberations from Jasmine Crockett's powerful televised debate continued to unfold across the nation. As election season drew near, her campaign became a beacon for voters hungry for authentic leadership and real change. Her message, centered on justice, equity, and accountability, struck a chord with a diverse coalition of constituents who felt overlooked by the traditional political establishment. Jasmine's grassroots movement expanded rapidly. Volunteers flooded her campaign offices, organizing phone banks, canvassing neighborhoods, and hosting community events. Her team leveraged social media like never before, using videos of her debate performance, speeches, and town halls to engage younger voters who increasingly saw her as a voice for their generation. Her campaign focused heavily on building alliances with labor unions, civil rights groups, and progressive advocacy organizations. These partnerships provided not only volunteer support but also vital resources and endorsements, strengthening her position both locally and nationally. On the legislative front, Jasmine continued to push for meaningful reforms. She introduced comprehensive bills addressing affordable healthcare, criminal justice reform, and education equity. Though some faced tough battles in Congress, her persistence and ability to rally public support kept these issues in the national spotlight. Meanwhile, her relationship with party leadership remained complex. While Hakeem Jeffries and others recognized her growing influence, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Moderates worried that her uncompromising style might alienate centrist voters, while progressives rallied behind her vision, eager to push the party further left. Media coverage reflected this dynamic. Profiles celebrated her as a rising star and a champion for the marginalized, while editorial pieces debated the potential risks of her approach. The narrative was clear: Jasmine Crockett was reshaping the political conversation, challenging long-held assumptions about power, compromise, and progress. Despite the pressures, Jasmine remained focused. She frequently reminded her supporters that true change required resilience and unwavering dedication. "This is about more than politics," she often said in speeches. "It's about the lives of the people we serve." Her words resonated deeply, fueling a movement that extended beyond her own campaign and into the broader fabric of American political life. As Election Day approached, all eyes were on Jasmine Crockett. Whether she would maintain her momentum and translate her fiery debate moment into lasting political power was a question that captivated the nation, and one that promised to shape the future of the Democratic Party. Election day arrived amid a swirl of anticipation and excitement. Jasmine Crockett had become more than just a candidate, she was the embodiment of a growing movement demanding bold change and authentic leadership. Her campaign was a testament to the power of grassroots organizing, fearless advocacy, and the unyielding belief that politics could serve the people, not just the powerful. As votes were tallied, it became clear that Crockett's message had resonated deeply with a broad spectrum of voters. Turnout among young people and marginalized communities surged, driven by her relentless calls for justice, equity, and accountability. In districts across the country, similar progressive candidates found inspiration in her example, energizing the party's base and reshaping the electoral map. When the final results were announced, Jasmine Crockett emerged victorious, securing her seat with a decisive margin. The win was more than a personal triumph, it was a symbolic victory for the new wave of progressivism sweeping through the Democratic Party and American politics at large. In the days that followed, Crockett used her platform to continue advocating for transformative policies. She pushed for sweeping reforms in healthcare, education, criminal justice, and economic equity. Her legislative agenda was ambitious, reflecting the urgency of the challenges her constituents faced. Within Congress, she remained a dynamic force, respected by allies and challengers alike. While tensions with more moderate party members persisted, Jasmine's ability to build coalitions and navigate the complexities of governance proved invaluable. Her blend of passion and pragmatism made her a pivotal figure in key negotiations. Nationally, Jasmine Crockett's rise signaled a shift in political culture, a movement away from cautious, incremental change toward bold, unapologetic action. She inspired a generation of activists, leaders, and voters to believe that their voices mattered, and that real progress was possible. Her electrifying comeback on live television was no longer just a headline, it was the beginning of a new chapter in American politics. A chapter defined by courage, conviction, and the relentless pursuit of justice. As Jasmine herself often said in speeches after the election, our fight is far from over. But together, we've shown that change is not just necessary, it's inevitable. And with that, Jasmine Crockett stood ready to lead, a symbol of hope and a testament to the power of standing firm in the face of challenge.